Good evening and welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Alex. Lord, the Cardiac Kings, the Cardiac Kids, whatever you want to call them, they set history, which I a little bit surprised that this was history, but they have alternated one-run losses and one-run wins in 7 straight games. And this was just another example of this Braves offense. While we did have a big homer and we did have a little 2-out rally there, just being dormant. I mean, they just are not producing enough. And thankfully, the pitching again, Grant Holmes, outstanding. The bullpen, Dylan Lee, Dosbell Hernandez. I mean, they have been unbelievable. Iglesias shaky there at the end. No one really hit anything hard off of him. Unfortunate. And Nick Allen makes his first error, and we're sitting there like, oh my God, if we lose this one. I mean, the Nats had lost 5 straight. Grant Holmes gives you a gem. The bullpen pretty much does its job. And you lose this one. Thankfully, they walk it off in the ninth to who else? Eli White gets the single. Nick Allen gets him over. Alex Verdugo hits the walk-off homer. A couple hits for Verdugo, which is nice. He's been struggling a bit of late. But it was one of those where you're just like, phew, at the end of it. Phew.
It's happened a couple times to Iglesias. This past time, definitely not his fault. Obviously the guys were on base because of him, but I mean, that's as routine gets. And that's routine for me, let alone a guy in Nick Allen who can make.
So last night they ruled it an error. And it should have been, it's just going to be one error on the throw, but it should have been 2 errors because he had that shuffle step and bobbled it and then threw it errantly and probably wasn't going to get him. And then I checked this morning when I'm writing on the game, they gave Dylan Cruz a hit for that and then an error. So 1 earned run goes to Raisel Iglesias. I don't know what Raisel Iglesias did to that because I've seen Nick Allen make that play literally 100 times this year without even blinking. And if he does it cleanly, Dylan Cruz, who love him, LSU guy, super fast, 5-tool prospect, legitimately. He's out by 2.5 steps. So it should have been an error, really 2 errors on Nick Allen on that play. Not to take anything away. He's been outstanding defensively. But yeah, as tough like it's even the 2 hits that they got were not hit hard. Yeah. And then he gets a ground ball that should have been a double play, but to hit his own fault. Ended up luckily getting Josh Bell there at first place, but no harm, no foul. I do want to ask you, we talked a little bit about the conversation. It's obviously gone on Twitter for several weeks now, but Raisel Iglesias is standing as the team's closer. And now that we're 43 games into it, I mean, you can't just have guys out there going and blowing games for an entire season. Like even the best of closers, we've seen the Yankees do it with Devin Williams. We've seen Emmanuel Clase get removed as closer. We've seen David Bednar if you're not closing games well, you have a quicker hook than the rest of the team because you can't just go out there and keep blowing games. And while this one wasn't necessarily his fault, and I'm not ready to pull the hook yet, I'm at least willing to hear the conversations for those people pointing to Dosbell Hernandez. And it's more just about how good Hernandez is, how good his stuff is. I mean, he's now hitting 100 miles on the radar gun, and outside of a couple shaky outings at the beginning of the season, has been lights out. Now, do you want to risk putting that guy as a closer and potentially losing a setup man? And do you want to risk that? Because that could really throw things out of whack. That's a risky proposition. Some guys aren't built to pitch the 9th inning, but if he can do what he's doing in the 8th right now and the 9th, he's the team's best reliever. So I will at least hear that conversation.
I think you can have a conversation about it, but I do think that, you're basically talking into a void for 2 reasons. One, this is the Atlanta Braves, and they are one of, if you want to talk about a club that is going to back its guys, and just keep going and trusting the totality of their work and all the stuff that you always hear Brian Snicker and Alex Anthopoulos talk about. It's, the Atlanta Braves, and they're going to stick with Raisel Iglesias. And, to push back, we don't have another guy. And Dosbell Hernandez does have the stuff, but it's a lot different, pitching in the 8th inning without, that added pressure. And it is a high leverage situation in the 7th and 8th innings, but it's nothing close to the 9th inning. It's like being the top guy anywhere and being the boss. And you can say, oh, I'm feeling the pressure, but you'll never have the same pressure of being the boss, being number one. And I think that can have profound effects on a guy. And I think that the conversation sure might be warranted. I think the FIP tells a little bit of a different story, especially with last night, if that's how they scored it, which is ludicrous with Raisel Iglesias. The simple fact is, in years past, we have had the luxury of maybe, if Raciel Iglesias had some struggles, we could have gone to Kenley or, vice versa. Kenley Jansen struggles. Maybe we do bump Kenley Jansen down and Raciel Iglesias. Hell, even last year you had multiple options. And while AJ Minter wasn't stellar closing games, you still had the ability to bump him because then you had Pierce Johnson. You had Joe Jimenez. Hell, Joe Jimenez maybe could have closed games for you last year. But the simple fact of the matter is while the bullpen has been piecing it together with Dosbel Hernandez being a critical piece of that, and you'll say it, everybody is not a closer until you're a closer. I don't know if this is really the time. I mean, I just don't see it. And I think, it's going to fall on deaf ears, especially with this organization because of how they've done similar things in the past where, they're going to give Raciel Iglesias all the rope he can handle until he eventually hangs himself.
Yeah, but I just don't know how much more time it is until he's sitting there hanging off the ground and there's nobody coming to help him because, like I said, there's only so many games that you can blow. And even this game where you don't necessarily see him blow and it's a blown save. And it's unfortunate that it happened that way. But you need your ninth inning guy to be a little bit more dominant to where it's like you ain't touching this guy. And frankly, not only have they been touching Raciel Iglesias more often than not, they've been touching it hard for home runs. And that's because, as we've talked about, he's hanging the ball over the middle of the plate. And you can say, all right, just don't do that anymore. But if you keep doing it, eventually you got to make a change. And listen, it's a position of all the positions in baseball where not only the Braves, but everyone has to be a little more proactive. It's the closer position because you can't sit here when you're trying to get over the hump at 500, get back in a postseason play, be blowing 2 or 3 run leads because every single game is pretty much a 2 or 3 run game. You can't have a bunch of blown saves. So you have to be a little more proactive. And the reason I think Dosbel Hernandez is going to be the guy that's continuing to be brought in this conversations if Iglesias continues to struggle is because the stuff is electric. It is a closer material. He could be a closer in this league. Now, does he have the mental makeup? Well, you're never going to know that until you try it. And you're never going to know that. And it's not like I'm sitting here saying Iglesias needs to be sent to AAA like you did with AJ Minter back in the day. It just might be something where if this continues, and I don't think we're too far away from it, like you go blow 2 or 3 more saves, the Braves are going to have a choice. Like they've given him plenty of rope. I mean, we're over a quarter of the way through the season. He's blown a number of saves. I'm his biggest defender. The easiest course for this all to pan out is he just comes back and he closes 10 straight games in a row, which we've seen him do several times in a Braves uniform. I don't think we're there yet, but I'm at least open to hearing the conversation about Hernandez more because he's been so damn good.
I don't think we're close, and that has nothing to do with anything other than Brian Snicker's words last night about the entire situation. And it's exactly what I don't know why people are going to be like, we need to do something so out of the box and this isn't knee jerk, but in some instances it is like that's not who this organization is. Like they're going to stick with their guys and if it burns them, it burns them. Snicker last night's going, he's hitting his pitches, which I'd argue, maybe not last night, but in, other opportunities, he has certainly not hit his pitches unless the pitch is, hanging a slider middle. I doubt that is that's the call. But, just from those words alone, like Snit is, not moved, and he's not going to be moved because he's 1 billion years old.
Well, I do listen. The one thing Snit is going to do, like you said, he's going to back his guys, and he's going to back his guys publicly, like first and foremost, like until it's time to make a move.
I watched them trot out Marcell Ozuna while he was batting 0.68 for weeks.
Marcell Ozuna wasn't closing baseball.
I get it.
And but like he had his back, but like they were, you can't tell me like he had his back publicly in the public eye, but you can't tell me deep down in the organization there weren't serious conversations that we were right there making a move. I'm sure there were conversations at several different times when the Ozuna things were going down. It was like, are we sure we're going to go down this path? And like
this guy can't get to 100.
But publicly, it's always like, oh, we were never going to. Yeah. We're never going to leave
back our guys.
Tomorrow.
We saw how hard he was working.
Yeah, and they'll do the same thing for Raciel Iglesias until it's time. Yeah. Like until that day comes, like it could be, it's going to be a quick flip because it's going to be like because we saw the same thing with AJ Minter in the past, and unfortunately, and Dosbel Hernandez could not be the answer. And I do think it would be wise for this organization.
Who's not the answer. Craig Kimbrell. Yeah, not get that out of your head.
I have seen a lot of people comment and mention Craig Kimbrell's name. Maybe it's just time to give him a shot. No, guys, Craig Kimbrell was never brought in to close games for the Atlanta Braves ever again. Craig Kimbrell isn't closing games for anyone other than maybe the Colorado. Maybe the Stripers. Yeah, maybe the Stripers or the Colorado Rockies, who aren't much better than the Gwinnett Stripers in the year 2025. Like, those years of Craig Kimbrell saving games are well in the rearview mirror. We're
not even talking high leverage.
Yeah, we're talking about, like, is he going to be on the team? Yeah. Like the Craig Kimbrell is like some guy that everyone in the bullpen's kind of carrying their weight. So they're like, yeah, let's just keep him.
We're just going to wait until one of those guys flames out.
Yeah, and then he'll come in and be the Jesse Chavez the role. Like, he's not going to be high leverage anytime soon, probably never this season. If it is, it's going to be like the fourth or fifth guy. Him closing games, it was never a consideration from any club, which is why he signed a minor league contract. Like, no, if someone thought that he could pitch the ninth inning still to this day, he would be on a major league team somewhere. That's definitely not the thing. The question is, can Dasbel Hernandez potentially be that guy? Maybe we see it, maybe we don't. Hopefully we don't, because it means Raisel Iglesias has figured things out. A lot more coming out of the break. Hawks, Braves, draft lottery. Stick with us. Oh, it's a great day to be a conspiracy theorist if you watch the NBA draft lottery, because there's so many aspects. Well, really just the top two picks that just screamed like, hey, this is rigged. And obviously it starts with the Mavs, who I'm sure several times we joked on this show, joked on Twitter, was like, it was the laughing jokes. Yeah, the Mavs, they gave Luka. Obviously they're going to get the number 1 overall pick. And then it actually happens, which, if the NBA is not a conspiracy organization and this whole thing is legitimate, I really don't know at this point. It's probably like, damn, they actually want it. We're going to get flamed for this, because for them to win with a 1.8% chance, and this is not the first time this happened. You go back to AD after they traded AD, the Lakers, the Pelicans get Zion Williamson. You go back to Kyrie Irving, LeBron leaves, they get Kyrie Irving. Like, it seems like every team with a less than 2%, like, that's a hell of a trade. That's a hell of a lot of 50-1 odd teams getting all of these superstars just landing in their lap. Like, if you parlayed all those, it's almost too sketchy to be true. Meanwhile, teams like the Hornets and Wizards that are there every single year just don't, like, they're not even thought about. They're like, yeah, you're picking fifth. Yeah, try to figure that one out, buddy. Nice way to tank. You won 18 games. All those poor fans out in Washington are like, oh my God, at least we'll get the number 1 overall pick. Cooper Flag. Now you're picking some random guy in Europe. I'm sorry. But I don't know. And then on top of that, the Spurs, who are the luckiest lottery team in the history of lottery teams, land the number 2 overall pick, which is the loaded draft class, could be another piece. But most likely, in terms of, and this affects the Hawks, they now have the easiest trade package ever to lure Giannis to San Antonio, if that's where he desires, which we were there recently. I don't know if you want to be there, Giannis, just saying.
The river's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I saw the river. I hung out on the river walk. It was pretty cool. I thought it was fun. It felt like a different country a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. We all know how the women looked thanks to Charles Barkley, and Giannis does have a woman, so, you don't have to consider that. But I have so many different ideas. My head is just spinning, so I'll try and get them down, and you stop me whenever you want to interject. Firstly, this is hard to be like, it's not rigged, guys. Again, I don't think it is rigged, but it
would suck if it is.
I do think the notion that it is impossible, that, I see these idiots like, McMahon or McMahon or however you say his name on ESPN. He goes, I watch the balls drop. I know it's not rigged. It's like, that if there were to be some sort of, conspiracy, it would go down to like the balls have to be some, magnets, or they're weighted, or, the carbon and the numbers is like, there has to be so many levels for it to be a conspiracy that you even watching it would still get fooled. And then on top of that, people going, EY would never do that. EY is one of the big four. Like, again, we're talking about, the Democratic Party was caught within a conspiracy, the highest levels of I don't understand. I'm talking about from the 1960s. I'm just saying, like, to act like all this stuff is impossible is a little bit disingenuous to how much money is on the line. $500 to $1 billion probably Cooper Flag is going to generate for the Dallas Mavericks.
Especially considering that the amount of money that Luka going to Los Angeles and the league made off that, and then saved the Mavs franchise, which is another big market team. We're talking about billions on billions on billions. Listen.
People have done worse for less.
The Luka trade saved the NBA. Like, let's be clear about this. The numbers were going into a collapsing measure. That trade single-handedly made people watch the Lakers, which turned them into other teams. And now you have this great postseason and things are all of a sudden trending up. And that all started with one move. So to say that they wouldn't do something like this and to act like just because you're in there when the balls drop, ridiculous.
It is hilarious.
Ridiculous.
That is, I saw them drop. It's like, well, like, have you ever heard about people, back in the 70s and 80s and 90s cheating Vegas in the casinos? That's the kind of stuff they were doing. And obviously now it's much harder to cheat casinos, but it's not impossible.
It's a lot easier to trick you sitting right there.
You little puny, media pundit who just, you're a peon, dude. You have you're a peon. Yeah. And on top of that, so I do want to, say that. And then I want to also say two other things that I don't think it's rigged. I do not think it's rigged, but I am glad that he is not going to Charlotte. I am glad he's not going to Washington. I am glad he's not going to Utah. I am glad he's going to Dallas because, one, I feel for Dallas fans. I mean, to have that kind of, the Charlotte fans and the Wizards fans, it's like you're always going to suck. I mean, no offense, but like they had generational talent and it was taken away from them against their will. It's nice to know, and I do think I'm excited I like Kyrie's probably not my favorite player, him and KD of this generation. So to see Kyrie be able to maybe compete again for another championship is exciting. Klay Thompson, I love Klay Thompson. I love AD. Like, I'm excited to see Cooper Flag potentially go there. One more thing, off the wall, saw people go, this is great. We should do it in the NFL. Shut up, idiot. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You want to know why the NFL is king, other than football being the greatest sport that's ever graced this earth? Soccer, golf, all of it. It's the NFL. NFL is king. It's the most fair sport in the history of this world. The parity in the NFL is unlike anything else. Baseball, soccer, basketball, it is unlike anything else. And the lottery completely takes that away. Let's just, for instance, say they had a lottery. Who is picking 10th or 11th or 12th, whatever the Mavericks were going to have? I'm blanking on maybe some of these.
Falcons might have benefited.
Yeah, well, let's just say, the Cincinnati Bengals, won the draft lottery. And then they were able to get Abdul Carter. And then everybody goes, oh, yeah, see, that's not fair. Of course it's not fair. The draft lottery is inherently taking away. It's giving, it's trying to decentivize tanking, but what it's really doing is not giving the worst teams an ability to bounce back. There is no chance for these teams to bounce back and get generational talents. And when it does happen, it's just our luck, like the Atlanta Hawks, then it's the Zachary Rizachet draft.
Yeah. Well, also the NFL, there's no tanking in the NFL. I know people, we see it every single year. A team with the number one pick wins week 17 and goes to 4. We see that quite literally every year. It's not a problem that you have in the NFL, and it's a problem. It's something that I've talked about a ton on this show.
I think a big difference too is there's 53 guys on an NFL roster, and 48 of them are literally scrapping and clawing and killing each other for just, and NBA people are like, well, I'm the 7th man, but I make $15 million a year.
These guys are going to be out of the league if they don't go out there and perform. And a lot of these guys are playing for their jobs next year, and these coaches are coaching for their jobs next year. And how they end up the last week of the season could end up helping them keep their job. Think about Arthur Smith, who got blown out by the Saints, and all of a sudden did. So
Dennis Allen got a whole another year because of that.
Yeah. So there's no tanking in the NFL. And frankly, you don't want to tank in the NFL because you're trying to build culture. You going out there and tank. We've seen teams do that, and oh my God, does it blow up back in their faces? Bad teams stay bad in the NFL for a lot of reasons. But if you go out there and do not try, I want to talk about the Hawks aspect because there is a Hawks aspect to the NBA draft lottery, but we'll do it after the break. So the story of the NBA draft lottery is not going to be about the Hawks, but for Hawks fans, it was a very, very good night. Now, it was always likely. I think the Spurs or the Sacramento Kings had about a 4% chance, which is less than that damn Dallas Mavericks, to get up into the top 4, which would have obviously not helped that top 12 pick to convey. So we wouldn't have gotten that pick from the Kings. They would have picked it, and we would only had 1 first-round pick. That didn't happen. They stayed at 13. We are going to get that pick, and now we have 2 first-round picks in this year's draft for our new Anzi Salah, our new general manager, and whoever we hire as the new president of basketball operations. to do something with.
Yeah, it went perfectly. Spurs picking right behind us because of our pick that from the DeJounte Murray trade. We get the Kings pick right ahead of them. The Lakers pick also from the second DeJounte Murray trade the Pelicans gave us, number 22. I mean, this is a great position to be in considering where we were, like it was doom and gloom, and rightfully so. I know a lot of sports fans like to say that, but there was like an off chance this draft didn't go our way. We sucked. Zachary Richey didn't show any growth whatsoever. Trae Young's out of here. We don't own our first round picks, and we're hoping that Jalen Johnson can, be the new star of our and now Trae Young wants to stay. Zachary Richey did show growth. We did get these 2 draft picks. It looks like we are going to be able to build something now. Are we going to package them for, a star? Or are we going to make those picks? That's what's, next on the docket.
Yeah, like you said, looking at, what last night could have been a year ago, it could have been a very, very dark night for Hawks fans.
I think everybody was assuming it would be too because of who, we've been.
If we finish, maybe not outside of the play-in at all, and maybe we got the Mavs luck, and Cooper Flagg was going to the Spurs, and they're also picking second. They're picking 1, 2 in this draft.
I would throw myself off the building.
It didn't seem like that ridiculous of a possibility. Okay. And now you end up with 2 first-round picks. Dyson Samuels turned into the most improved player in the league and maybe a budding star. You still like what you have. Trae Young's happy to be here.
Landry Fields did not deserve to be fired.
I don't get it.
I didn't get it. I mean, when he took over, the Hawks were undoubtedly in a worse position than when he left. And granted, I don't agree with everything he did, but again, we say it all the time. No GM bats 1,000, but he put the organization in a better spot today than he did when he took over. And I mean, there has to be something going on behind the scenes. And I don't want to, rain on this parade because the draft lottery was a great night for the Atlanta Hawks and our fans, but something's weird is going behind the scenes.
I think you just have a trigger happy owner. Yeah. I think he wanted to see results a little faster, but the reality of the situation was, given what he had to take over and the mess he had to unravel, it was never going to be a quick process, and it was likely going to be a process that required a full-on rebuild.
Yeah.
And he was able
Trae Young's out of here.
Yeah, he was able.
He kept
He was
did
able
enough
to avoid
to
all
convince Trae Young to stay.
I mean, to me, the Dyson Daniels trade was so damn
single-handedly saved us.
Was so unbelievably good. How do you fire a GM 1 year after that? No, I agree. I mean, and I think the Hawks have made it clear, at least from reports, that they were going at big game, big fish hunting. But there's not a lot of big fish and big game.
It's okay to look into the mirror and be like, "Hey, I can't pull tens."
But here, all right. Here's the one caveat to that, right? Like, Anzi Salah was promoted from within. How much of a role did he come in and play in unraveling this situation? Because it all did happen basically since he got there. And it could have been like, this guy has such a higher, his word means so much more than everyone else. Let's not stick with the guys who are going to get the credit, which is Landry Fields, and let's go with the guy that was actually making decisions behind closed doors.
That's very possible.
I mean, that's the only reason I can see
it. He is heralded as this capologist who's just a cap guru. To be frank, I don't, I like that. It's not a bad asset to have inside of the organization, but it also tells me that the ownership is prioritizing, dollars and cents more so than talent over dollars and cents.
Well, no. I mean, because it definitely sends the message when you're targeting Bob Myers, whether you get him or not, and whoever you end up getting when you're trying to make this big swing and you're willing to spend money that you're going to spend on the team as well. We'll see if that comes to fruition.
You make the picks or you trade the picks? I don't think there's any possibility. I don't think there's any reason to trade the picks for another draft pick. So trading 22 and 13 to get 9 or however far you can get up. I don't think you can get very far up, but let's say
I don't think you can get far up.
Yeah, no. 9, 10 maybe. I think that you're better off taking 2 shots, and I know that 22 is much further beyond 13, but I did an article on it. Go check it out, SportsTalkATL.com, that some of the guys that you get at 13, and obviously this is not the standard. This isn't the rule, but Tyler Hero, Donovan Mitchell, I mean, those are some pretty damn good guys. And then Jared Allen was a 22nd overall pick. I mean, there is the chance that we get at least one solid contributor.
Well, and the depth of the organization was a problem this year. And
we had a G League front court.
Yeah, like the depth of the organization was a problem. So getting good guys that are coming off the bench, and maybe one supplants another as a starter, and he turns out to be a star, whatever that may be. I don't think taking the picks. I don't think first round picks have that much weight. Now that's the deal that gets you a big guy, but I don't think the 13th overall pick is going to be what the difference in you getting Kevin Durant.
Oh, you don't think 13-22 and Onyeka Okongwu gets us Giannis?
Yeah, I hate to say it, but I don't think that's happened. We got some Falcons. They're heading to Berlin. First game ever in Berlin. We'll talk about it after the break. The Atlanta Falcons are officially heading to Germany on November 9th to play the Indianapolis Colts, and hopefully it goes better than the last time we headed across the pond, but obviously this one is in Germany. First game, regular season game ever in Berlin. Fourth international game for the Falcons. These games tend to be sloppy, but
yeah, they do.
Desmond Ridder, I don't know if you remember that Jags game, threw a pick six, threw some. That was really, I think, the game. I think that was week 5 of the season where we all looked at ourselves, even the ones that were hopeful about Desmond Ridder, and we're like, oh, yeah, this guy is awful. This guy is really, really bad. That's when the quarterback carousel started happening soon after that. And so hopefully this one goes better, at least for the fans in Germany. They won't have to see Desmond Ridder. They will get to see Michael Penix, and this Falcons offense should be fun, very fun to watch. It'll be a good spectacle, hopefully, for them. Don't know what's going to happen with the Colts on the other side and Anthony Richardson and their entire quarterback situation. So hopefully this is a road game. So we get a road game that's not actually in the building. It's not going to be a home game for the Falcons. You travel out there. Hopefully you can win that game, and you're not 1-0 on the road, but that'd be a big game to win on the road.
Deutschland. My favorite thing about these European games is, the European American football fans wear every jersey.
Yes.
Everyone's
Falcons, rocking a Patriots jersey.
Yeah, or, Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers and, and it's such a side note it's so insignificant. But when I turn on the TV to watch these games, I think it's so funny that it's like, they just like the overall game. It's not specific people, or they do just like the specific people. Another take I have on this is if you're American and you're going to Europe and watching these games, why? You're going on a once-in-a-lifetime trip to London or Germany or Mexico City. They have them there in Mexico City. And instead of going to Germany and doing German things or going to London and doing London things, you go and do something that you could have done in your hometown of America. Like that makes absolutely no sense to me at all when people do that.
Oh, I think most people don't go to Germany.
Well, they go, I'm saying, but they still spend money. They still spend the money, and they spend 4 or 5 hours of a trip doing that stuff.
Oh, see, like I was thinking if I was ever going to go to Europe, it would be centered around I'm going to go watch the Falcons in Europe too.
So I would go around a Champions League match. Like that's because you'll never get that here.
Well, and you can get both of those. Like around this. Well, I guess not. You can get a soccer game later at that time. It wouldn't be a Champions League match, I do not think. But you could get a big high level soccer game as well as
you go on vacation to do things you can't do at home.
I usually do.
You drink warm beer and watch German soccer.
Or why do you go on golf trips?
To golf in different places.
Well, I'm going to watch football in a different place.
See, that's not the same at all. So not the same.
I think it's intriguing.
When we're in a soccer stadium now.
Yeah, I mean,
it's the same.
And it's
they have different grass.
You get an opportunity to watch your team. I think it's sick. Listen. I don't. If you are going out there, if you saw this and you're I'm going to Germany. I think it's awesome. I would 100% go and make it part of my trip. Listen, if I'm going to go there, I've never been to Europe, so I'm obviously not going to go just to watch Falcons games. But yeah, I'm going to be like,
how depressing would you feel going to watch the Falcons and then you watch Desmond Ridder and just
how about this? Another thing to consider: you going to Germany in November. You're after Oktoberfest. You're not in like the peak time of the year where you go. It's not Christmas. It's not the summer. So cheaper flights, cheaper everything. It's a cheap time to go to Germany, and now you have a little reason to go to Germany.
I think going to Oktoberfest is unless you're going to visit, historical things in Germany or, going to Oktoberfest, what the hell do they offer?
Well, I think you go to Europe Europe is like you go to several different places.
Right.
Like you're not. I don't think most people strictly go to Germany unless they have family there or they're there for Oktoberfest or something like that. But yeah, I mean there are things that if I was going to Germany, I would go during Oktoberfest and not the Falcons playing on November 9th.
Just put it this way: Europeans wouldn't come to America and then go, "Hey, let's go to an MLS game."
I don't know.
I would bet my bottom dollar on it.
Well, not an well, I don't know, Messi.
No.
I would think a lot of people come, but now they also can't see Messi anywhere else. Like if you're going to see Messi at the down end of your career, this is the only place you're going to see him, right here in the MLS.
Yeah, let's go see Peyton Manning play in the CFL. That sure would be fun.
This guy's a hater, man. If y'all are going to Germany to watch the Falcons, hell yeah. That's what I'm saying. Hell yes. The New York Knicks come up with a huge win, another game that went down to the wire. And when push came to shove, now obviously Jason Tatum looked to have suffered a very, very serious injury. And that guy was on one for the Celtics, had 42 points with about 4 minutes left when that entire ordeal went down. But it looked like the Knicks were going to win this game. I mean, they had just grabbed a 6-7 point lead there in the fourth quarter, which at the time was their largest lead of the entire series. Yet they were about to go up 3-1, which is just a microcosm of this series. The Celtics seem to have them where they want them every single game, 20 points up, 15 points up, whatever it is. And at the end of the game, the Knicks start to make things closer and the Celtics get tight and it unravels like that.
Well, I honestly was getting ready to come and fight you on this. I thought you were going to say the opposite. The notions, the narratives out there that this was the Celtics were going to win this game because Jason Tatum was having such an unbelievable performance, and he was. The comeback, it was not. It was a 7-point lead. I went through it all just so I could come up here because I thought you were going to say the opposite. 7-point lead. It was 3 minutes, just above 3 minutes left in the game. The Knicks had made 4 of that last 5 field goals up to that point. And the Celtics had made 1 of their last 5. And 3 of them were Jason Tatum's, 2 of them deep threes that he just chucked up. So while Jason Tatum was having an unbelievable performance, history would tell us in this series that the Celtics were not going to win this close game because they have absolutely no offense. And they quite literally only ISO, jump, whether it's, Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown or anybody else, they have no semblance of an offense, while the Knicks, on the other hand, have the clutchest player in the NBA left in Jalen Brunson, and they actually run a decent-looking offense where they, guess what, pass the ball. I can't believe it.
I don't think it's more that the Celtics don't have an offense because they do have the offense. They do have one of the best offenses in the league, and they run that offense for about 3 quarters. And then when stuff gets tight, it goes to what you're saying. They just
don't pass.
Yeah, it goes to, all right, Jason Tatum, save us. All right, Jason Tatum, you missed a couple of threes. All right, Jaylen Brown, save us. So I completely agree. Like the fourth quarter is when these games, anytime things start to get a little tight, you're right.
And that's Missoula.
I mean, and understandably, Missoula is getting a lot of flack for this. Now, it doesn't look like Jason Tatum, he might not play for a while. Right. That thing looked like an Achilles, which means Jason Tatum's going to be out for the remainder of this series. And I think that probably puts a nail in the Celtics coffin. I wouldn't totally count them out because they do still have 2 games at home. And who knows?
They're still deep.
Maybe now at the end of games, they're like, all right, let's run a little offense because we don't have Jason Tatum. And I know that sounds stupid because it's not like Jason Tatum was the reason they were losing. But sometimes, it does make you get a little more fundamentally sound at the end of these games. And it takes a lot of pressure off you. Now no one expects you to come back from 3-1 and you don't have Jason Tatum, but you still have a very good team. So I'm interested to see how at the end of these games, let's say the Celtics go out and take care of business at game 5. Game 6 now becomes a huge, massive, the biggest game in New York Knicks history on the road against the team without their star player. And that game gets close. Are the Celtics now the better team at the end of the fourth quarter? It will be interesting because how much the pressure has shifted.
I have seen enough from the Knicks that, they don't flinch. Jalen Brunson is a superstar. He might not be the guy in the regular season that puts up gaudy statistics and wins an MVP and sets, league records, but There are not 5 guys I would rather have the ball in their hands in the final 2 minutes of a playoff game than Jalen Brunson. And it pains me to say that. Like, I don't want to like Jalen Brunson and a lot of these Knicks, but I do.
Yeah.
Like, it sucks. I hate the Knicks. I don't hate the Knicks. I hate their fans. I hate New York, period. But, like, you got to call a spade. And Jalen Brunson is ice cold, baby.
I agree. No, I mean, Jalen Brunson, to me, if there was an MVP of the playoffs, he'd be one.
100%.
He'd be one, and no one else would be close to 2.
No.
Like,
and Donovan Mitchell might be 2, and he's down.
Yeah. No, I think Donovan Mitchell would be 2. Like, I think it's definitely been Jalen Brunson's show. And I agree with you. You know, he's been the difference late in these games. He's been the difference. He was the difference late in the games against the Pistons. And they've had a very tough road, and they're going to have to play the Pacers.
They've had the toughest road in the playoffs.
Yeah. And then they're going to have to play the Pacers. I mean, they've got a legitimate chance at making the NBA Finals, which I haven't said that about the Knicks in my lifetime. I mean, literally my life. I don't think they've been to the Eastern Conference Finals in 25 years.
And how about on the other side? I mean, you want to talk about people who are showing up. How about the guys who aren't showing up? Jimmy Butler, playoff Jimmy, buddy, where are you? And we talk about Cat, shutting down, and at least, these guys are shooting. Anthony Edwards is never going to stop shooting. Jimmy Butler didn't shoot last night. Didn't shoot a lick. What do you have, like 8 shots or whatever? I don't know. I made that up, but it was certainly not a lot. I mean, you're the guy. You got a bunch of bums on your team and Draymond Green. Like, this is your time. I mean, and no offense, but he hasn't had a guy like Steph Curry to rely on pretty much ever. It's always been his social. I was kind of taken back a little bit that he didn't.
Well, I think a lot of it has to be, credited to Minnesota and their defense. I mean, I think if there's one aspect outside of Anthony Edwards where they really excel, and Julius Randle has been spectacular in these playoffs. I mean, he's been spectacular this entire series. I mean, outside of that game 1, he has
leaving New York has been the best thing for his career.
And what's funny is, like, it's one of those rare scenarios where we're talking about where it's a legitimate win-win. Like, I mean, Cat had a monster season for the Knicks, and he's shown up for the most part during these playoffs, and having Jalen Brunson be able to be the guy late in these scenarios.
Cat doesn't have to be the guy.
Yeah, and you had it in Anthony Edwards too, but I don't know, for whatever reason, it's worked. It's worked with him in New York, and Julius Randle has gotten out of New York and become like a legitimate second option next to Anthony Edwards, and he looks a million times better than he ever did with New York. I mean, a million times better in these playoffs, and it seems like Anthony Edwards has given him that confidence, being a leader, which I think he's really, become an underrated aspect of Anthony Edwards, the way he kind of just deflects praise to all of his teammates and has them feeling a little more confident than probably any of them should be in these big games in the Western Conference, which are supposed to be these dog fights. And they're showing up, whether it's Jaden McDaniels going and dropping 30 twice against the Lakers, or Julius Randle turning into a legitimate star in front of our very eyes. I think that's kind of an underrated aspect of who Anthony Edwards and why this Wolves team seems to keep exceeding expectations.
Confidence is infectious, and you lead by example. And, Anthony Edwards is never going to shy away from the moment. Obviously you want to follow a guy like that. You follow a guy like that into battle. And, in that same breath, you follow a guy like Jalen Brunson into battle. And I would go out on my shield for Jalen Brunson, and I hate the Knicks. He is so inspiring, dude.
He's fun.
He is so fun to watch. He's fun. It just sucks that he's playing for the Knicks.
Yeah. Hopefully, I think as we've learned about this Eastern Conference, man, is it wide open. Yes, so we talked about the Hawks earlier in the show, having those picks, making some moves this offseason.
Giannis maybe going to San Antonio.
Yeah. I mean, it is wide open, which has to make you excited about what's to come for the Hawks franchise as well. The scrappy underdogs in the Eastern Conference, both up 3-1. Nobody saw this coming. Who do you think, though, is more likely to choke this thing away and not end up in the Eastern Conference Finals, or which team, the Cavs or the Celtics, step up and play up to the standard they've set over the entire season?
I'll go with the Cavs, and they're a worse team even still. I do believe that. The Celtics, without Jason Tatum, are still better than the Cavs. I do believe that. But I am a believer in the Knicks. I can't believe I'm saying it, but they have something that is just different. And maybe it's Thibodeau, whatever it is, these guys trust and love each other, but there is a different feeling around this Knicks team than just about, like, it's a similar feeling as the Thunder, that the Thunder, no matter what happens, they're not going to flinch. Where the Pacers, while I still believe, obviously, they're going to win this series, I think they're more susceptible to, crumbling and maybe not turning on each other, but crumbling.
See, I'm on the exact opposite. And it's not because I really love the Celtics. I just think I'm a big believer in the Pacers. I think that, they were the underlooked team. They were a team that were in the Eastern Conference Finals a year ago. Yeah, they ran under the buzzsaw that was the Boston Celtics, but I don't think it takes away. I think they've gotten better. I think the injuries for the Cavs, they have several of them, I think are big, even though both teams obviously dealing with big injuries. And I just think the Pacers beating them 3 times in a row seems like an impossibility. Well, I think the Celtics, being that they have 2 at home, the pressure that's going to surround this Knicks organization from their own fan base in that game 6, if they can get it to game 6, it feels like a game where anything can happen.
I'd put my life on a game 7. Jalen Brunson did. I'd put my life on.
Well, he lost before, but that wraps up our show. Pacers are going to the finals, guys. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll be back with you tomorrow.